welcome to Third Row Tesla Podcast. Thanks for tuning in to our live stream. Today we've got, Mark Frohnmayer from Arcimoto. He's the CEO of Arcimoto. Welcome, Mark.
Hey, welcome. You know what? 1 second here. I realized I'm on the wrong Wi-Fi. 1 second.
All right.
All right, get that
No worries. Well,
going,
we're still live, man. Go for it. And while you're fixing your Wi-Fi, we got Omar Kazi. How you doing, man?
All right.
Boom.
All right. Am I
Very
back?
good.
Sweet. Yep. You never left us.
Okay. Well, I think they're still probably seeing that big third row Tesla thing in the screen.
Yeah, get rid of that.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out, how to do that. All right. So, yeah. Let's see
Technology.
if All right. Maybe if I leave and come back. I don't know. No, it's not going to end the thing. Well, hang on. But Kristen, do you want to say hi?
Hi. Thanks
Thanks
for
for
tuning
joining us.
into yeah.
Excellent. Okay, is it
there
gone
we
now?
go.
It's
Yeah.
gone.
Sweet. Okay.
Nice,
Expert.
works out.
I'm an expert now. All right, great. So yeah, today we just we wanted to get together. I know it's been a really long time, but Mark, you just did a podcast on the Third Wheel podcast, not Third Row, Third Wheel, right? Tell us a little bit
Third
about
wheel.
that.
Well,
Yeah.
it's we make three wheelers, and so the Arcimoto Third Wheel podcast is a nod to that. It's also three people. Kenzie and Tiger are the hosts of that one, and
Nice.
then I think there might have been a little homage to the old Third Row in that name as well.
Well, we aim to inspire. So yeah, that's very flattering that we were part of that. But yeah, so just kind of, I
So
watched
Mark,
it last night. Yeah, go
For
ahead,
people
Omar.
for people who maybe don't know so much about Arcimoto, could you maybe introduce the product? I know you guys have been doing this for over a decade now, right?
Yeah. The whole idea of Arcimoto is right size mobility, and right size electric mobility. I mean, the electric is sort of obvious, right? As you guys know, and I think what struck me when I started, I started in 2007. I had no aspirations to start a vehicle company. I was a video game developer for most of my life, and when my partners and I sold Garage Games, I went looking for a sustainable ride to buy, and there was just nothing in the market that met a reasonable bar of quality, of affordability, something that I wasn't looking for a car. I've been a bicycle commuter for most of my life, and I'd kind of gone car free in like 2002, and I was like, in 2007, I was like, surely someone has come up with. I mean, it's 2007. Someone's got to crack this code. But so I started digging, and I just couldn't find anything like either a golf cart or put down a deposit on a roadster.
Right, because even Tesla hadn't made its first vehicle back then, right? So it was
Right.
2008, the first Tesla came out.
And then I saw a three-wheeled kit vehicle in a parade, later that summer. This is like months later. So I'd been kind of fruitlessly searching for months. And I saw this really cool kit vehicle called the Bug-E that was actually designed in Cresswell, Oregon, about 10 miles away. And these guys were driving them in the parade, and they just had these giant grins on their faces, and it was just zipping around. It was like, that's what I'm looking for. And so I got a kit and strong-armed some friends into helping to put it together. And in doing that, I realized, one, it wasn't, because I wanted something that if I got it, that it would be, it would be workable for the mass market, so that, anyone else who was so inspired could do the same thing. And but it was in the direction of the answer, not the actual answer I was looking for. But in seeing it all come together, it made me realize that like a vehicle, it was like a Lego set for big kids, and that if you had the right Legos and you put them together the right way, you might actually have a real winning product in what was then just a giant vacuum between the bike and the car. And
Awesome.
we, coming from software, I was like, oh, it'll 6 months to come up with a market-ready product, and after you sell your first startup that you've been, so I started coding when I was like 7. Kind of, the Garage Games was a lifestyle-oriented, fun company that we all kicked in a little bit of change for and sold for a decent sum. And so I was under the mistaken illusion that I was some kind of good entrepreneur and easy, and turns out not so much.
So Garage Games, it was never a public company though, right? It was just a private company.
No, we were
So-
it was a privately held company, and we exited to IAC in 2007.
Awesome. So like fast forwarding into now, because I think a lot of people watching this know you and kind of know a little bit about Arcimoto tuning in, but your experience going in, as a public company, bringing this public vehicle, Arcimoto, and kind of like what I want to talk about is a little bit like the parallels with Tesla that we've been experiencing, because you're an electric vehicle company, and we've seen how Tesla's been attacked. So, what's been your experience taking the company public and just things you've had to deal with?
Well, not even just, I would say, before even going public, it's anytime you're
Really?
trying to do something that is new and different, there are any number of folks who will offer opinions about your certain demise. I think once you jump into the public arena, the problem, I think, with the public market really in its best state would be something a market that exists for price discovery and for capital formation. But there play the market in a lot of different ways, and when folks decide they want to bet against you, then they actually start really trying to come true. And that can be a challenge, because and Arcimoto has always been, we're a mission-driven company. We think that that transportation needs to be really rethought on a fundamental level, and it certainly doesn't help when there are people trolling at it verbally is one thing, but then like actually making strong bets against in order to try and prevent it from moving forward is kind of a dick move, if you ask me.
So you're talking about the short selling and this sort of thing. So maybe talk a little bit about that if you feel comfortable.
Well, it's and it's everyone plays that. They've got their own reasons and agendas and trying to return value for their stakeholders and doing what they can. But I think there's what I've noticed is certainly kind of a constellation of ecosystem players that either explicitly or implicitly together to just do not such great stuff, and it definitely has an effect. I mean, it has an effect on our stakeholders. It has an effect on the people who are working on the company. It certainly has an effect on the company's abilities at various times to form new capital and move forward. So I think there are definitely structural problems with the marketplace, and we're working to root out some of those bugs in the code. But ultimately, it's just part of what it's part of the rules of the game that we're playing in. And so I think what has on the balance, I think it's better to be public than not, because being public means that, Arcimoto has always been built and supported by people who believe that we need to make a major change in the way that we do things. I mean, it's not just transportation. It's it's all aspects of how we live. And so the only way that we've gotten through any number of gates is by people saying, hey, I want to be a part of that story. I believe in that story. I want to help contribute to that cause. I want to buy one of those things. And so being public makes it a lot easier for people who are on board with the mission to be able to participate. But there are definitely structural problems with the market, and I've been glad to see that it seems like the current administration is making noises and moves towards maybe cleaning up some of those messes.
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, you talked about the rules. I mean, if everyone was following the rules, it'd be more fair. But it sounds like maybe some of them aren't. Like,
well,
there's got to be rules.
Yeah, I should be clear. There are definitely people that break the rules and are along even with so there is short selling is part of the thing. You can loan out your stock that you own in a company to somebody else who wants to sell it, and for the privilege of doing so, the man in the middle will take half of the rent. I mean, it's people complain about Apple's 30% cut, but the metaphor I like to think of this is let's say you own a house, and then you hire a property management company. They take 50% and then they break all the windows. I mean, that's basically it's roughly what the current thing is. But then that's just part of the game. I mean, people can make that choice or not as they see fit. But there's also so-called naked short selling, which is when you don't actually have a share to sell, that you sell anyway, and because of the trade settlement window, it's like you have T+3 days to settle out trades. They're like, oh well, I'll sell it and then I'll get it inbound before that window closes. That can cause real problems, and I think it's some of that mathematical issues that caused the whole GameStop phenomenon about a year ago, or a little more than a year ago.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So tell us about the decision to go public. Why exactly, after all these years, did you decide it was time for Arcimoto to go public? And with all of the attacks, the short sellers, do you think that it was a good decision ultimately?
I wasn't. So we went public in 2017, 4.5 years ago, and at that point, I wasn't really tuned in to the kind of a lot of the stuff that happened after that, and I certainly jumped into it without. I think you kind of have to live it to really start to get a feel for it, even after years. It's I keep learning more things about the cadence of the market and timing and so on and so forth. But the reason we went public is that our Series A investor was Bill Hambrecht, who was legendary venture capitalist and investment banker, half of Hambrecht and Quist. They're the guys who took Apple public. He was the one who came up with the Dutch auction that Google used to go public. They took, I think, Amazon, Intel. They had just this storied run. And Bill, what Bill saw was that over time,
We still got Mark? We looks like he's frozen.
and up and up and
He's-
up.
Oh, there it goes back. Sorry, Mark, you froze there for a second.
Oh,
Go ahead.
It's probably how much? Where did I lose you?
Maybe the satellite was going down the road a little bit.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, go for
Okay.
it.
Where did I lose you?
Over
About
time.
10-15 seconds.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so what Bill related to me was that he noticed that over time it took more and more, like companies would wait longer and longer and longer to go public, and so all of that value creation that happens in the early stage of a company would only be captured by the venture capitalists, but people weren't able to actually participate in it, and there were lots of good ideas that were sort of public ideas that didn't have the opportunity to go public. So he worked very hard on the changes to Regulation A in the Jobs Act, to let smaller companies go public. And when he invested in Arcimoto, he said, I want Arcimoto to be a sort of a test case. We were one of the very first companies to use Regulation A to go public, to sort of prove out that pathway, so that good ideas can be in the public market and can enjoy, ideas that might not fit into a venture portfolio for whatever reason, can have the opportunity to get heard by the people. And excuse me, my dog is wanting this ball very badly, so I'm gonna throw it and then I'm gonna close the door.
This is real life, guys.
Yeah.
All right, there we
No
go.
editing involved here.
No, we're doing it live. So that was, I mean, that was ultimately the calculus behind going public. Other than simply, we've got a public mission, and so having the ability to open that to the world in a way that, when you're a private company, you can only raise capital in fairly restricted ways. Although subsequently, CF, all the crowdfunding things have come around. But to me, being public there are a couple of things. One is that sort of level of the requirement for transparency, for disclosure. I think those are actually pretty important. There's certainly a lot of regulatory burden and overhead as part of that, but we're a vehicle company, and there's a enormous amount of compliance requirements of a vehicle company. I think much larger on the vehicle side than on the public market side.
Awesome. So, what if there is anything people can do now to help? I mean, what is the thing that you would suggest to the supporters of Arcimoto in terms of, like, when the short sellers are attacking and you have to get through all these, the difficult times, on the market?
I think, I mean, to me, I would just invite folks to try it out. We now have rental centers open in a number of locations. Omar, you were saying you saw some go-cars rip by in San Francisco.
Yeah, there are a few around here. I've seen a couple, yeah.
We've got a rental center down in San Diego. We've got a number of partner locations in Florida. We just got keys today for our first Hawaii location. That's not open yet, obviously.
Which
but
island did you say?
It's in Honolulu.
Honolulu, sweet.
Yeah, and so, but we're, so we're gonna. To me, a lot of it is, and I definitely noticed this with Tesla, is that, like, with what really propelled Tesla forward, who love Teslas and know that they make super kick-ass cars, and drive them, and got online and were like, hey, this thing's awesome, you should try it out. And so that's, I think it's, a lot of it is just, pushing back the noise, right? There's anytime you want to make it through the breakwater, you gotta swim pretty hard.
Awesome.
So
And
Mark,
speaking
you
of-
talked about
yeah,
kind of having the bike with 2 wheels and the car with 4 wheels and seeing this huge market opportunity in between. So tell us about, why a 3-wheel vehicle, why Arcimoto, and really who do you see it for? I know I see a number of different kind of variations on your website, a delivery vehicle, a first responder vehicle. Kind of make the case for why you think this is a huge market and why it needs to exist.
Well, it was. I think when I first saw it, it was more like there was just this. It wasn't just about the number of wheels. It was sort of like the mass disparity between, the 2-wheelers and the 4. Like, it's just the giant difference in scale of those things, and that was kind of the whole I saw. I started with 3-wheelers just because that was the kit we got, and coming from, so in Eugene, I grew up here. This is where I live, and it's always been kind of I would think, forward-looking spot in terms of transportation. Big bike culture, a lot of alternative vehicle ideas, some really cool bike design companies, and the guy who designed the buggy actually designed a vehicle in the 90s called the Gizmo, and it was three wheels was just sort of where we started with, and three is in between 2 and 4. I think what happened over time was just realizing, and now I'm doing another technical difficulty thing here. I'm not actually charging, so come on, computer. Guys, this is one of those tough podcasts to make happen. Technical challenges.
Keeping it real, man.
Okay, there we go. Was that just the three-wheel platform? Once I actually got one and started working with it, it delivers a really awesome ride. For one, it takes 3 points to land a plane, so all the wheels are always on the same plane. Which means that you don't have that torsional flex of a chassis, so you can make the chassis lighter. And if you ballast the mass properly, you put the heavy things where they need to be, you can actually create a ride experience that's, I mean, it's like the best go-kart you've ever ridden, right? It is a really, it feels like an extension of your will to move. And so when that, as we were iterating, this is in kind of the early years, as we went along and started really doing all the packaging studies around, where do you put the stuff? We started to really hone in on a fantastic ride experience. And then, Omar, to your point, what we finally landed on with the 8th generation 9, that could be varied in a lot of different ways to solve a lot of the different needs of transportation. Because the way that we transport ourselves typically, almost all the time, is either by ourselves or just one other person traveling a short distance with not very much stuff. And that crosses fleet applications, it's delivery, it's fun ride around town, it's going to the movies, going to work. And so we built a platform ultimately that can be, purpose built to really nail a bunch of different use cases. And then we've got kind of the general purpose fun utility vehicle that is, it's just it's a super useful everyday electric ride.
Love it. K10, did you want to ask something? Sorry.
So
K10,
you are in. Am I lagging? Am I all right?
Just don't want anyone to think that I'm ignoring you.
Really fine. I'm getting lag. Some of the video keeping up with the audio, but Mark, you're doing this in the US. Are you looking at possibly going international at some point?
Oh yeah. So we hired Dilip Sundaram, who's formerly of Mahindra, as our chief international business officer about a year ago, and he has been, because we get inquiries from all over the place, and actually I think a lot of people have told me, like, well, what you're doing is, you shouldn't be doing this here, you should be doing this somewhere else, because they would like it much more elsewhere. I'm like, well, we're fixing the problem that we have here, so let's fix it here and fix it somewhere else. But the ultimate idea is to basically create both the pattern for right-sized mobility, and then create the pattern that makes that pattern, right? What is the design, and that's what we're doing right now with the ramp program, which one is building the factory, but then also really the design of the factory that we can replicate everywhere to make Arcimotos. The goal is not to build all of the Arcimotos for the world in Eugene. The goal is to build Arcimotos here, wherever here might be.
Sounds like Tesla a little bit, though, with the gigafactories.
And if they've got any extra space, we pile in. The funny thing about that the spot we got the keys to, it's in the same building as the Tesla Experience and Service Center. Really.
Amazing.
And so
get those guys to try them out all the time, right?
Well, that, and I'm like, hey, can we collab on service? Let's work together, guys.
Well, I mean, imagine going to get your car serviced and they don't have a Tesla loaner. Why not Arcimoto be an option? They could just take one as a loaner.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
All right.
And hey, you used to have a Tesla, right? Didn't you? Or did?
Oh no.
Yeah?
So I put down the pre-order, and then my mom
Model 3.
it. So yeah, the Model 3.
So it's still in the family. I love it.
It's a we share it, as long as I'm current on my supercharger payments.
No free supercharging, huh? So it
No.
was, yeah, that's cool. Long range, I think, is probably long range rear wheel drive, right? It was the
Yeah,
original.
I got it loaded. I got all the packages, and then
Nice work.
like, well, you've got to
FSD?
keep it clean. And
You got FSD?
yeah, of course.
So have you got the beta? Have you been trying it out? What do you think?
No. I mean, I paid for
You
it.
need it. You need it.
Yeah. Well, I the only times I use that vehicle are really for long distance trips, and the lane following autopilot's great.
Yeah.
For our for around town stuff, both Mom and I use our FUVs.
So has that inspired the autonomous capabilities that you're developing with Arcimoto? Right, maybe a little
no,
different purpose.
I mean, autonomy's been on a roadmap from the very beginning, but not in the sense that we were going to develop the sensor and software stack. Back in the day, I was looking to Google or who put the right robot on top of the machine to pilot it around. So we've always, and mostly that was just a function of, one, focus, but two, the enormous amount of R&D necessary to solve both things at the same time. So we've built the platform from day one with the idea that it would be pilotable by a machine. But right now the goal is really dial in that platform so that any number of, there are a bunch of different companies working on a bunch of different variants of autonomy, and get the right, for certain cases. I mean, some use cases, if you've got a material mover inside a factory that's following a line, that's a much simpler problem to solve and a much simpler computer. It can still drive the same platform around, but so different use cases require different sensor software stacks. And again, that's where I feel like looking at what the current state of play, given where Tesla is, and Omar, you log this on a regular basis. I mean, just the constant state of improvement of that tech. We would love to have a Tesla bot, stack driving Arcimoto platforms. And if they get to the point where that's something they want to do, we're totally game.
Nice. Omar, any more thoughts about that on the FSD side?
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. Now, you mentioned that you use the FUV yourself to get around. Do you have a car? Do you have a bike? Like, how exactly do Arcimoto products fit into your life, or which ones do you use personally?
I have not had a car since
Model 3?
Well, and again, that's my mom's car. So
yeah, it's
well, I guess I share it. So yeah, so I share a car, but I think I sold my gas burner in like 2002,
Wow.
and so and switched to bicycle only, and then I was like, it would be really nice to have a mobile couch to take me places, and that was one of the things that spurred my search for the right EV. My bicycle presently has a flat tire and probably needs a chain refresh. The bicycle the bicycle class vehicle that we're developing is the Mean Lean Machine, and that's Omar. Have you had a chance to check that out yet?
Yeah, I checked that out. It looks pretty cool.
It's just outrageously fun, and that was one of those things that was sort of like after working on Arcimoto for I think 13 years, it was one of those kind of bolt from the blue concepts that has come together really quickly. But that's one I'm incredibly excited about. It is presently in the Bay Area, or the version 3 prototype is in the Bay Area, getting some new software and motor tech, and we're getting set to build, or we sort of like got parts flowing in for the next set of prototypes. But I think this summer I'm going to be doing a lot of pedaling on the Mean Lean Machine.
Nice. Any ballpark on what the pricing might be for people?
We have not released firm pricing of any kind, but we have talked about tiers. So I think if you look at the e-bike market, you've got, very premium e-bikes that can be like 6, 8, 10,000 and even more. You've got kind of the sweet spot in the, I don't know, call it the 3 to 5 range, and then 2 and down for the more mass market, mass production style. And I think we want to be able to hit all of those tiers. When we're at very low, we're going to be in the top tier, and then work our way down.
Cool. Very
Cool.
exciting.
So that's the pedal version. I think when I was out there in Eugene, when we went to Portland, you had a motorized version as well, right? Is that a product or a prototype, or is that going to be ever developed?
You're talking
the
about
lean-
the
the lean
collab
one.
with Lightning?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So we acquired Tilting Motorworks in the beginning of last year. So, and the kind of the story of the genesis of the Mean Lean Machine is this really awesome inventor, Bob Mile. So from ever since starting Arcimoto, I'd seen all these tilting vehicles. BMW had the Simple, GM had the Lean Machine, there was the Carver. There've been a bunch, and like none of them. I mean, Harley had a prototype, all these different things, and nobody had actually gotten it to production because they were either too complex or they didn't get it right, geometry right, or whatever. But as we were building Moto, I met Bob, and I'd run into him in front of these like venture conventions and stuff like that, and we'd have vehicles be like, oh, your thing's cool. I was like, your thing's cool. And what he'd done is he created what's called the Trio, which is a bolt-on kit for a motorcycle to turn a motorcycle into a tilting 3-wheeled motorcycle. And we kept wanting to work together, but not being able to because we were both just starving it up in the startup world. And so it was only in 2020 when we started. That was in that kind of bolt moment where I was like, "Hey Bob, what are you up to?" We very quickly started the Mean Lean Machine collaboration, and then as we were talking, it was like, "Dude, why don't you just pile in? We'll merge Tilting Motorworks into Arcimoto. We've got the Trio now as an accessory, a whole product line that takes a 2-wheeled motorcycle and turns it into a much more kick-ass bike." And the thing Soph was talking about is last summer we did a collab with Lightning in order to take their race bike and turn electric race bike and turn it into a tilting 3-wheeler. And my understanding is they're planning on taking that to Bonneville this summer. So set some records on it. But from a new product development standpoint, we're with the tilters, we're starting with the e-bike class and then moving up, rather than like what we did with the FUV is start with the automotive idea and move down.
Awesome.
Makes sense.
That's great. Well, thank you for that. Was so cool to see it in person, and too bad we didn't see it out on track, but maybe next time.
We've got a little footage, but we'll have a lot more soon, I'm sure.
Excellent. Very cool. So yeah, I know we've been going for about the half an hour successfully, I think now, before all the glitches. But we do have a few questions from we got some on YouTube, and I think maybe on Twitter we can open it up to questions. People can tweet at us because it's all live. But let's see. Someone was asking about how many. Well, they were asking how many FUVs you're producing a day. Is that something you're able to release? Any information?
So we build. We have a 4-day schedule per week now. We're building 4-a-day now. We're going to step up to 6 end of the month. We
Nice.
are targeting to be at 12 a day by the end of the year, and then the goal for this year is 1,000 FUV platform vehicles. And again, that's between the FUV, the Deliberator, the flatbed, and so on. And then next year we plan to 7x that, with the ultimate goal of being at 50,000 units a year in this facility in 2025. And then of course, as we're doing that, once as we get those processes really dialed in, we want to spin up more ramps in more places.
Very cool. No, I'm excited. Someone was talking about India being a perfect place. Do you see any challenges or opportunities there?
Well, I think definitely giant opportunity. A
Yeah.
market that already understands three-wheeled vehicles, and we think we've got some very good solutions there. The questions would just be sort of price sensitivity, manufacturing partnerships. I think in a number of different international locales, we'll actually probably lead with the mean lean machine as the entry product, because again, just it's hitting a much a much lower embodied energy, much lower price point, and still very capable for a huge range of trips. But yeah, India is definitely on the roadmap, and that is where Dilip is from, and I think he would strongly believes that the land of his origin would be a great market for us.
I love it. Cool. Keitan, you got any more questions?
I do. So, Mark, you said that you drive your FUV most of the year. So I know in Eugene the winters are rainy, wet. How for? I mean, I'm thinking people are thinking about the four seasons and how do they perform there?
Oh, it's great. It's great. I mean,
Hmm.
so one, if you're going outside to get to your vehicle, you've probably got a jacket on. The fairing overhead keeps almost all of the water off. You got heated seats, heated grips, dual motor front wheel
Wow.
drive. So the drivetrain is in front. You've got independent motors for the front wheels. So much better traction than would be typical of like a rear wheel drive trike. And then there's also just a really cool feeling of being out in the world in the rain when you're warm and toasty and dry and the world's still happening around you, but you're still part of it. Then you pull up to poor suckers on their bicycles with all their wet weather gear and just slot it out and like, have a great day. Anyway, I'm
Yeah.
kidding. I honor all of the hardcore bike commuters in Eugene who do it in the winter, but it's
Yeah.
really not a problem. I mean, yeah,
So,
if
Nice.
the rain's coming in sideways or you're in a blizzard or whatever, just pick a better time to get groceries.
but you do have
Yeah.
a door option coming though, right? Like a
Oh yeah,
actual.
and
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
nothing about the platform that prevents it from having doors. Doors are
Okay.
just, I would say though, doors are remarkably challenging to build on vehicles. I don't know if you guys remember the Falcon Wing, but that one design choice, making doors is in cars, and just sort of a lot of this has sort of consumer expectation of a thing, right?
Uh-huh.
The automotive has just spent a century getting you know really refined fit finish trim lines, et cetera, et cetera, and a door that can open and close tens of thousands of times. So when in building Arcimoto, I just didn't want to make that a requirement to get into the market, as far as having that be a baseline product feature. Also, not having doors makes it real easy to step in and out. And again, you're in the world. So and for for the market, I mean, there's the California is like the fifth largest economy on the planet, and then you add in all of the other beautiful warm weather spots where you don't need it. There's plenty of market to go after before we have to have that fully buttoned up experience.
Okay. Got another
Definitely.
question from YouTube. So someone was asking, literally some guy was asking, does the Arcimoto have an airbag? But I think
It
I know the
doesn't.
answer to this question.
No, it has uh, basically crisscrossed 3-point belts. So you got two 3-point
Yeah.
belts for each passenger. It's a safety model that we aped from roughly from BMW, that they did on the C1 back in like the 2000 era, which was a semi-enclosed motor scooter,
Hmm.
and that does a really good job of holding you in the seat in adverse circumstances.
Awesome. So let's see. We got some more questions here. Unless Kristen, you want to ask another question, or Omar?
Yeah, so what do you see as really the future of the company? Uh, where do where would you like to see Arcimoto go? What products would you really like to see the company make beyond scaling the FUV and the mean lean machine, some of your existing products?
Well, the near-term future and I talked about this a bit on our webinar. had this kind of many shots on goal strategy of product development. So the near term is that's crystallized in, sort of first shot for the win, which we think is the commercial and delivery space. The Deliverator just provides it's a unique solution for last mile delivery, food delivery, it's got the combination of it can go on all the roads, it can carry a lot of stuff, it can park in tiny spaces, it can through traffic, and it has a very low cost of operation and ownership. And so that combination, we think that's a giant market right there. As you look out longer term, I think it's going to be much more, at least in the near years, it's just all about ramping to scale above platform and the mean lean machine platform. And then there are, variants of each of those. So platform 2, which is kind of the core of the mean lean machine, we're looking at as sort of like the Steve Jobs said that the Apple II is like it's the bicycle for the mind, we look at the mean lean machine as the Apple II for the bicycle. So it's kind of like a combined the future drive or micro future drive is that heart of it, and it combines like all of the electronics and battery that you would need for small scale micromobility devices. So you can have, it's got multiple inverters, all the VCU, IMU, a good backpack with that, and that is ultimately, I think, is going to be kind of this off-the-shelf component that can go into all kinds of different vehicles on the micro scale. And we're really focused on micromobility, that right-size footprint piece, and it's everything from, lightweight material movers to new variants of scooters to new variants of tuk-tuks to autonomous luggage carriers that follow you around. And I think there's just a lot of untapped opportunity in that space. But right now,
absolutely,
the focus is like crystallized, first shot for the win, Deliverator, and of course getting the mean lean machine on the road.
So when you see people in the automotive industry talking about battery supply and the battery supply chain and not having enough batteries to transition everyone to electric vehicles, we need to kind of ramp up a lot of the supply chain there. You see micromobility as kind of an answer to how we can transition more people with the same supply, right?
Use less batteries, a lot less batteries. GM launched their EV Hummer. It's a 9,063-pound hunk of highly extracted, ridiculously highly extracted materials, and to say that that's sustainable transportation is, I beg to differ. With that same amount of material, you can build 8 FUVs and 100 mean lean machines.
Right.
So
there's a question.
We don't have enough of that stuff.
Sorry.
Then let's use it better.
For sure. In terms of production and manufacturing, how much we got a question from YouTube from some guy again. How much of it is actually automated in the factory? Like, do you have any videos of that out there? I mean, can we actually see what it looks like?
Cool. We tackle automation as kind of like low-hanging fruit, biggest pain points first. So we've automated we use we fab out of sheet and tube steel. We have CNC tube benders and press brakes, robotic welders. We have now, and I'm gonna do another running tour here soon because we just got the robot feeder to the CNC press brake working. So, that piece of it, the guy who was sitting at the station doing the press braking was then programming the robot to do the press braking so that he can go on and do other more fun stuff. But it's like just starting, and that's, that will continue to be the case in terms of just automating the stuff that is, the highest labor cost and most repetitive and, heavier things. And then we're also designing in tandem with a company called DW, an automated production system for our new battery, the cylindrical cell battery. So that'll be all of those are keys to ultimately, over the longer term, driving down costs and quality and reliability and all the rest.
So we did have a question about cost actually. If there's concern that someone could come in and price, do undercutting the price, like something that happened at baseboard, getting undercut by cheaper Chinese manufacturing.
Mhm.
So is that something you're concerned about? I mean, what's the protection the company has, the moat? In a way?
I think we need to continue to accelerate our pace and stay ahead of the competition. And I'm really pleased with the pace of development now. The team is really clicking and humming. And folks are chasing what we've already done. We need to be a step ahead with where we're going next. And ultimately, look, the goal is to shift the world to a sustainable transportation system. That's going to take a lot more than just Arcimoto, than just Tesla, than just Rivian, than just everybody else who's doing it. It's going to take a lot of work. And so if we can be an inspiration for others to move in this, actually a good thing. Of course, we do want to win, so we got to stay ahead of the game.
Definitely. Yeah, I think there's plenty of opportunities. One of the guys here, Faisal from Florida, is talking about they have a lot of golf carts, and they're thinking this would be popular, recreational vehicle.
Oh yeah,
Florida. Maybe marketing it there.
We've got Fort Lauderdale. You got a bunch of spots in Florida. Check it out. And it's like the world's best golf cart. I'm not gonna lie. If your course will allow you to drive it on, which many of them do, then you can actually get to and from the course on normal roads and then go play. It fits on the cart path. The other thing is it's because the three wheels are kind of offset. You're not running over the same grass twice. So if the greenskeeper's like, no, you can't take that on the course, you're like, it's actually better than a golf cart, dude.
That's great. So you're already doing that. I love it. It's great.
Oh yeah.
Very cool. Well, what are some things that you would like to do but you haven't actually done yet, if you're allowed to say?
You mean like personally?
No, I mean like the applications of the FUVs and maybe talk about the Roadster a bit. The Roadster is I know your favorite, and it's my personal favorite.
My real secret quest is I want to ride the Mean Machine around the world. So that's
Definitely.
one of the things driving me forward is once we get that really dialed in, gonna go on call it the Johnny Arcimoto seed project, but just go
hopefully we can be part of
the
that.
story everywhere. But yeah, the Roadster, and this is I gotta credit Galley for this one because we had this Roadster was gathering dust in the warehouse, and he came down in the fall of 2020. He's like, "What's that? That thing looks cool." I was like,
It is cool.
I should probably take that for a ride, and I did, and it just blew my mind. Being able to really move your body right into the gravity field. And dude,
of course.
You rode it.
That's why I asked you about it. It's my favorite too.
I believe you're going to be getting another ride on it here in a day or two.
I think so. Hopefully this week, yeah. And may have another special podcast to do afterwards as well.
Perfect.
Excellent. So
Mark,
go ahead.
I know there's a lot of talk in the auto industry right now about a lot of the different changes that have happened since the pandemic, supply chain issues, part shortages. Have you faced any of that at Arcimoto, and how have you dealt with that as you focus on ramping production?
Well, I think we're in a pretty good position in the sense that, when we laid out the plans to ramp, we weren't originally targeting even opening the factory until the end of this year. We moved faster than we thought we were going to on that front, but what I told all of our stakeholders a year and a half ago was, production. Hey, there's a pandemic happening. Production is going to be choppy and relatively flat for the next couple years until we hit that ramp point. And that was for both because of the supply chain issues that we faced. There's just a whole lot of product development and planning work going into getting to that mass production stage. So I think that has insulated us somewhat from the real pain that the big guys have been feeling, that have been trying to crank out, millions or hundreds of thousands of units, and gives us, I hope, that a nice time window buffer to really get things right, but we really hit the throttle. But it's still been I got to give props to our materials team. I mean, Chad and the whole crew have just been working miracles to get the right parts to keep the production, limited though it is, going through week in, week out.
Awesome. Well, we've been going for almost an hour, guys. How are you guys feeling? Do you want to start wrapping it up, or you want to keep going?
Should I crack another one?
Well, let's see. We got some more questions. So someone was asking about the Mean Lean Machine, and when is it coming, and what will the price point be? I think you asked that already, Omar, right?
Yeah, you're gonna have to rewind.
Yeah,
Late
yeah. They were saying there were different tiers. Yeah.
It'll be a fun
Sorry
user.
about that, Faisal, but yeah, it's definitely, we talked about that already.
Tiers. We'll announce pricing soon.
So Gabor, my apologies if I pronounced your name wrong, but people do it to me all the time. Not that it's right to do that, but he says the FUV wants. He basically looking for a more futuristic design. They're wondering if it was gonna, become more futuristic looking in the future. But he loves the company. He said he'd love to see it refreshed, whatever.
Style refreshes will certainly happen over time.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
But
nothing
again,
stays the same forever.
we build from the inside out. So the goal is to really get the foundations and platforms right first, and then build out. And then, it's like somebody told me once, function is beauty, right? So that ultimately it's the function you got to nail, and then the form that comes over that should be ultimately self-evident. But when, who did the design, Greg Thompson, who did the design of the original FUV, which was then the SRK Generation 8. And I think he did a phenomenal job. We kind of, over time, as we worked our way through the process, it got munged around by Greg. When he told me, he was actually the guy who won the Local Motors sports car design challenge, and that's how I found it. But when I gave him this tall, short, three-wheeled thing to design, he's like, this is the hardest vehicle design challenge I've ever had to make this thing look reasonably sexy. But when you see it in person, it looks way different than when you see photos, just so you know.
Well, I think the Roadster, though, right now is an amazing design. And
also, some people love it, some people don't, but when you drive it, it's almost 100%.
Yeah, totally. When you drive it or ride it, however you want to describe. I mean, it feels like a motorcycle to me when you're on there. It's got the controls like a motorcycle. So it's definitely unique. It doesn't feel like a car. That's for sure.
And I think that's another thing, too, is that it's just, and we kind of touched on this at the beginning of the hour, it's just there's a lot of pushback with things that are new ideas. And I mean, this is something, and that's one of the reasons I just have had profound respect for Elon over these many years. It's just that willingness to just push through obstacle after obstacle after obstacle with Tesla, with SpaceX, with everything that he does, just going, with the firm conviction that these are things that need to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
What's some of the pushback you've heard on Arcimoto?
Everything.
What makes you think a video game designer can go and make a car company? I'm like, well, it's not a car, dude. I've been told repeatedly that we are certain to fail, and that we will never have a chance of getting a product to market, and that my time would best be spent doing anything but this, and just over and over and over and over again. You will never get you'll never get Bay Area funding because you're not from there, and Oregon will never fund your stuff. So you won't ever get the capital and it was somewhat right. And we didn't get traditionally venture finance until Bill cut the check. But it was always people that were like, you know what, I think you're heading in the right direction. Throw in a little stake and push you forward. That's what's let us get to where we are.
Awesome. Any last question from you, K10?
No, I don't have any question. It's good to hear your vision, and how it's all going. India is an idea that I thought it would do really well in as well. So
Well, hey, K10, you know, we're not that far away.
yeah. Hey, we're up here in I know.
You
And
could just, yeah, I mean, give her one to have outside and have people try it out.
yeah.
Uh-oh. we got
Is
frozen
Mark
Mark
Oh,
frozen?
yeah,
again. He's talking,
Construction.
but his lips aren't moving. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
I've got there's some trees in the yard behind mine, so the Starlink sometimes occasionally goes out of scope. But what I was going to say is, you're not that far away, Kristen. So if you ever want to come down, we'll roll out the green carpet, and would love to show you what we're doing firsthand.
Definitely. Thank you, Mark.
Awesome. Well, Mark, any last
And
remarks
same
before we
same for
close
you on
out?
that.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, awesome.
right on. Well, guys, hey, thank you very much for taking up your evening. Well, two of them to have this conversation. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
It's our pleasure, man. Thanks for joining us. Well, we'll hope to see you again, and maybe we'll record next time. I think this has been fun, but technically challenging, that's for sure.